Hello, welcome back to another Just for Today. I'm Jamal the Normie,
Hey, I'm Miranda, the addict.
and today's topic of discussion is Let It Go.
And today's scripture, Ecclesiastes 3:6. A time to search, a time to give up, a time to keep, and a time to throw away.
Good scripture, and that ties in well. Like I said, today we're talking about letting go. So there's an addiction, honestly, in life in general, because I'm not an addict, but there's even things I need to give up.
Yeah.
The time there are things I need to let go. Things like anger. Things like with addiction. It's more about getting away from the things that are going to keep you using. They're going to keep holding you down. So that can be so many things. It's not necessarily the drug or the drink or the whatever you're addicted to. It's what's leading you to do that. So giving up how you think about certain situations, giving up places you're going to, people you're hanging around, depression, sadness, giving up your shame, and that's why it's good with us tying in God, because He takes all those things.
Yes, let it go.
Let it
to
go.
God.
Yeah.
Letting go, that was a big one for me, getting clean and sober. That was like the hardest thing for me to learn, is to let it go. And when I had to learn, well, what am I letting go? When you get clean and you get off any drugs or whatever chemicals in your body, all the things that you were shoving down are now being released, are now coming up. I didn't realize, how many emotions I had. I was literally crying every day, all day, didn't matter what for. I had so much anger, just, emotions, and then I had to let go of my control. I no longer had control over the situation, over any situation. I had to let go and let God in. And that was the major thing, is letting go of the control. I didn't have control over my emotions, but I had to learn how to control my emotions. That's kind of the step there, is you let go, but I had to learn how to control my emotions. My emotions were all over the place. Letting go of control in regards to when I was getting sober, I was in a very, very dark place. And what was being thrown at me, I was in the middle of a divorce, being accused of domestic violence, being accused or wanting my children taken away from me, just everything being ripped apart from me, and not having control over that situation, and then having to go to court and defend myself. I had to learn to let go of that control and let God in, and just pray for His help. The story goes, when everything hit the fan in my story, and everything was being thrown at me, I remember I went to the doctor, explained what was going on, and he's like, you got to go to the hospital. You got to go to inpatient. That's how bad it was. So I remember driving to the behavioral center, getting ready to check myself in, and that's when I broke down. I screamed and I cried and I pleaded. I didn't know who I was pleading to at that time, but I was just asking. I couldn't do it on my own anymore. I needed help. I needed help. I can't do this alone. And I didn't go in to check myself into the rehab or the behavioral center. I ended up going home.
But you were there.
I was there.
Yeah. This close.
Yeah. But still, just letting go of that control and letting God in. That's what happened that day. And eventually, I did go to outpatient services, and I got treatment done that way. And going into treatment, that's when I learned, how to, again, surrender, how to surrender to my feelings, how to surrender to my control, my emotions, and my anger. Again, my anger was all over the place. I was mad that I didn't have control of the situation, and I was it was just such a dark place for me to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But feeding off that a little bit, I'm normal. But I also, I have to let go of anger, Again, the more that I learn about her, not about her, but through what she's learning, I'm also learning, because I had anger. I had a lot of anger, problems, and I'm normal, or whatever. But I had to learn to let it go too. If she's going through these steps, having to be this better person, how dare I not meet her at where she's at? I'm thinking now I'm stronger, but what she's doing is so much stronger. So she's setting this bar of reality, and then I'm having to go up and meet each of these steps with her. Like, how dare you hurt me? It's instant anger. You have to let these things go. Just back when we're talking about, like, with the storm episode, anger is just really big for me. It's really big for a lot of people, I think. Somewhere in your story, anger is weaved in there somewhere. I haven't seen anybody in recovery that hasn't been angry at some point about something, but again, though, yeah, for me, it's anger. That's really big. Yeah. It's a really big thing in general. In the beginning, so for me growing up, my family is everything, and they've always been somebody that I can go to. There's always my family that I can go to for whatever the case is. So here I am, pushing her into her family, but some of the issues that she has stems from them. And I'm like seeing it, and it's like, it's mind-boggling to me, because my family's always been, they're my foundation. So you can't really sometimes you can't push your things onto somebody else, thinking that that's what they need. God's, he's the foundation for everything, but you can't push your things onto some other people.
And in regards to, he's used to having support from his family. I have a very, very small family, and it's not that they're not supportive. They are supportive, but my dad, he was in addiction, so he that was part of my downfall. Not growing up, he wasn't in addiction growing up, but later in life, like when I got into addiction, he was also in an addiction. My mom, not so, she wasn't, but she was always supportive. But growing up, the foundation, it wasn't negative or bad. I just think that we weren't informed. I never knew how to handle my emotions. We didn't know how to communicate properly. There was just a more or less of just yelling, and if I'm mad, I'm gonna throw a fit, slam the door. There was never a sit down and let's talk about it. I remember, once I had my son, and I knew that never happened with me. I always did the opposite of that when I was raised. I made sure, okay, after you go in timeout, let's talk about what you did wrong. Let's learn from it so we don't make the same mistakes over. I just was never taught that, and I don't blame my parents. My dad was just always working. He was a workaholic. My mom was a stay-at-home parent, and everything fell on her with, she was raising 3 girls. I just think she just didn't know either. She was a young mom. She had her first kid at 18. It was just, we just weren't informed on how to deal with life. We didn't know how to deal with our emotions, our anger, and so it just built up, and we just buried it, and there was a lot of conflict with not my mom, but it was just, we just didn't know how to communicate. Bottom line, we just didn't know how to communicate.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing, like, from my perspective, it really does fall down onto, communication and control. That's the main thing I see. Well, not even just with you guys, but like when I'm thinking about any addict of some sort that's taking these steps and everything, control is is a big part of it, right? Like you're trying to control something, you know, whether it's how you're doing this, how you're doing that. You guys all have that trait, you know.
It's the control.
It's the control.
Yeah, but yeah, my family would say it. Yeah, we all have.
But that's, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, but like I was saying, that, you know, that's the trait that a lot of them have. And I haven't met your dad. I haven't met her dad, but I would assume that that's in there too. But that control.
No, actually, no.
He's not control.
No, like that's what's so surprising. My dad is the emotional side. I guess you can say all the like the gentle part. Like my dad wasn't the yeller. He's not.
So, but why did he use? Why does he use? What's his?
Well, I think he's insecure. I think, yeah, because he was never a manly man, you know.
So is it like to control his emotions?
I think it was like me. He didn't know how to handle it, maybe, and you know, I don't know. That's a good question, but he's not controlling. He's not emotional. He was in the military, so it was more like you don't talk. You know, he never told me growing up. Never heard "I love you." Never had a hug. Never had any of that. It was like just I'm going to work. I'm providing financially. That's my part. But he's a lovable, because once I had Isaac, it was just me, because at that point my parents were divorced, and that was the first time I started hearing I love you from my mom and my dad. But when I had Isaac, that's when the emotions from my dad, I saw passion from my dad, and he actually, you know, cared and expressed his love for Isaac. But growing up, like, I remember it was a surprise to me when every morning my dad would leave for work. I was like, maybe like 12 years old. That was the first time I realized, oh, he actually comes in the room and gives us a kiss before he goes to work. That was the only lovable interaction I've ever had with my dad. He, not ashamed, but just even the way he was raised, I think that they just never showed emotion.
When I say control, I don't mean, so with you guys, it's like it's amped up, right? Like that control factor, but control also to control like a situation or to control how you're handling things, or like, because I thought that you were saying that he started using it when they broke up.
Well, no, it was actually, like he started using, I found out like 2 years into my using. So it was like way after he and my mom had divorced. You know, he had another relationship and that didn't work out. I don't even know how he got involved in it, you know. He would work at the jail, and actually I think he knew connections that way. But then also, like thinking back afterwards, before he started using meth, I think he started off with like using pain pills.
But why though? How was he getting these pain pills? He was getting them for a reason.
Well, my mom had arthritis, right? And back in the day, they would prescribe pain pills, and from what I've heard, my mom and my dad, they would get into it because my mom needed the pain pills, and then my dad took them. So I guess it started even before I knew about it.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Yeah, but I don't know why. But either way, like I don't see, my mom is the more controlling, emotional, and amped up stuff, and I don't know. My dad, like, yeah, he's an addiction, but I don't know. He's not controlling. He's not mean. He's a little bit too nice. You overstep. People take advantage of him, and that's where he's at right now. And still, I think, with the issues of having people control and walk all over him.
Yeah.
Insecurities in some way. I don't know.
Yeah. When I'm saying control, I think I'm expressing what I mean by control, though. I don't mean like control making you mean. I just mean control meaning that you're trying to control a situation of whatever. Yeah. Like if you're trying to control depression, if you're trying to control. Yeah. But who knows? I don't know. Yeah. I'm just saying in general, anger and control seems to be the main main things, or emotions, I guess. But whatever the case is, you have to let it go. Shame.
Yes, shame.
All of that, people using to get over something, to make themselves feel better, nobody's perfect. And it bothers me so much that you and your sister always say that I'm perfect and all this stuff, right? But I'm not perfect. The only difference is just that I try. You guys give up before trying.
Yeah, we get mad, we get frustrated. So we go the easy route,
Yeah.
and you actually put the effort
to
and the
not
work
do
into it.
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So
And I still do that sometimes, to where I want everything to be easy and just like that. I want it to be done. Yeah, I want instant results.
Yeah.
And again, everything to get things instantly, you don't bear the fruit at the end.
Yeah.
So,
anything you work towards, you're gonna feel better about.
Yeah.
You plant your seed, and you grow it, and then you harvest your crop.
Right.
You feel so much better than somebody that goes out and just buys that can of corn.
Right. And speaking of shame, I had to let go of the shame. I was, when in the beginning of recovery, I was in a very, very dark place. I secluded myself. I didn't talk to my friends. I got rid of my friends. I didn't talk to my family because I was ashamed of what I was going through. I was now exposed that here I'm like an addict, and I've been doing this for so long, and I'm going through a divorce, and in regards to my son, he found out that I was on drugs, not by me, which I would have wanted to have that conversation with him, to sit down and explain it to him. But it didn't come from me, it came from other people, and that like hurt him. So I felt shame, like I failed as a mother. So I went into this dark, deep hole, into a depression, even though I was getting clean and working on myself. I was ashamed. I was ashamed to come out, and like what I'm doing now, talking to people and letting my story out, I'm no longer ashamed because, again, I'm not in the middle of it. I'm not in that deep, dark hole right now, and I found the light, but I know that it's helping people. But shame gets to you. You're ashamed that you were on the drugs. I'm ashamed that I lied to so many people. I'm ashamed of what I did to get the drugs. I'm ashamed of everything that led up to this. Like letting go of that shame has helped me. I'm no longer shameful. It's just part of my story. And I just hope that, other people who hear stories, they'll feel more confident about letting out their shame and letting out their story.
Yeah, and even as small as, like you were saying, it came out to your son from other people, but that's also something that you have to let go of.
Yes, that was hard.
You got to get it out there. That longer you hold this stuff in, it's eating away at you, and it's taking
Mm-hmm.
longer, and other people are finding out, or it's affecting something somewhere. The longer you drag this out instead of it just being done, that's so many that you said, like about 4 or 5 different things about letting go. Each one of these little things, it really is a better thing to let go. It really
definitely
causes more harm.
The whole time I was holding on to that because I was angry, right? So that happened. My story was being told, to certain people or whatever. And it made me so mad. It made me so mad because I was in such a deep, dark place, and I wasn't prepared or able to nobody needed to know my story at that time, but my story was being told, and it bothered me so much because I didn't have control over that. The beans were spilled, and it's not me spilling them. They were being told in another person's view, in another person's perspective, and that was so hard. But I had to let that go. I had to accept the fact that, all right, you know what? Okay, it didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen. It is what it is. It's my story. It happened, so I have to pick up the pieces and just go from there.
And also that ties back into letting go of the people that you're around, the situations you're in. You gotta get out of that. You can't, even if it's family, it doesn't matter. It's about you. It's not about them. People tend to turn things around to be about them, but your recovery is about you. In this case, that's something that you have to put first, no matter what. If it's hurting, if they're not understanding that you're doing this for the big picture, to get better, then you have to let them go. And sometimes it's as simple as that, and sometimes it's about being around people that are going to drag you down. The familiarities to things, being in some sort of situation that's going to spark you to want to use, and a feeling, being around some people that are causing certain feelings to be like. I'm not an addict, but there's like groups of people when I'm thinking about like God in this sort of sense. I just disappeared. Like there's at least 2 different groups because I've had groups of people my entire life based on different things.
So you had double lives then?
Huh?
So you had double lives and you had triple lives, depending on what group you were with.
Depending on
you acted a certain way and you behaved a different way.
Yeah.
So the same thing. That's what I did.
Oh yeah. Yeah, same thing. But I know I'm not. Thank you. You keep telling me this. But I had to let them go. They're not. It's not about them necessarily helping me. It's about them dragging me down. Or me wanting to go to their level. You have to let it go. It doesn't matter. It does not matter if it's not helping you recover. Let it go.
I had to let go, even if it's temporary. You have to let certain things go so that you can, do your healing. I had to let go of some family members. Like I don't have a big family at all whatsoever. But at certain times I had to let some go permanently and some, let go temporarily. And if they don't understand, I can't control that. That's on them. I have to heal myself. But you can't control who your family is, but you can control your environment. And so in my recovery, I had control over, putting up those boundaries, not necessarily walls, it's just boundaries, because they were affecting, my mental, my recovery, how I thought and how I process things. Like, when you're in recovery, you have to renew your mind and how you think. And if I was being exposed to the same type of thinking and the same type of behaviors, I continue to think like, oh, that's normal. That's the way I'm supposed to be, like, oh, yelling at each other and whatever it is, like that's normal. So I had to remove myself from that situation. It's unfortunate, maybe hopefully, eventually someday I can mend that relationship. But like the scripture says, some things you have to let go and keep and throw away. It's just for your recovery and to better yourself. And letting go of like my old way of thinking. For the longest time, I was still in the habit of just thinking the same way. And it was such a struggle in the way I would try to describe it to Jamal when I was trying to like change the way I would think. It's kind of like if you're running in a circle in the dirt, like that path is right there. And so now I'm trying to like make a new path. But it's like you're so used to going in that same circle, that same path, it's hard to make that new path. But if you just keep on going, eventually that new path will break through and you're no longer in that old path. But just, it's just hard getting over the old ways of thinking and what's normal. And even like my old life, there's certain things that I would do when I was in my old relationship where, that I just know that that's not normal. I was very selfish in the things that I would ask and want. I didn't realize how much of a princess I thought I was, and what I deserved. A lot of the stuff was like, well, I deserve this, like I'm worth it, but it was more conceited. It wasn't like godly, so getting rid of the old ways of thinking and letting that go was a big struggle and a big hurdle that I'm still dealing with to this day.
But you don't even know that you're doing it, though. That's the thing. You have no idea.
No. Like if it wasn't for him calling me out, we got into so many arguments because I didn't understand what the problem was. Like, what are you talking about? Like, oh, I was so much in my head. Like, I'm right. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm right, And he had to break it down to me a lot. Like, we repeated the same things, and we still do. We repeat the same things, like, over and over, and he gets so mad. And again, I just pray for him to have patience, and I always tell him, well, every time we have the same argument, I learn a little bit, so it gets less and less and less, and eventually I'll learn it. Some things are bigger and some things are little and easier for me to like realize what I'm doing wrong. But oh man, like it's a struggle, and thank you for having patience, because I don't know, just the old ways of thinking is just
hard to shake.
Yeah.
And it is hard, especially with me, because I'm, like I've said before, like, well, my main two things is anger and putting you in a box, and then putting that box, another box, and another box, and I lock that thing up and I just kind of throw it over, right? So like
for days.
Not well. You haven't seen anything, but with that, with me being that way, there's no way this would have worked. Like, because of God taking this away, like literally giving it to God, like in our first video, He's helped me just as much as helping her. You know, she's changing all of her stuff. I'm changing all of my stuff. And honestly, her being the addict and me being the normie, I'm getting stuff changed just as much as her. So these lines are really, really starting to blur, and the deeper we get into this, you know. So
yeah. Just to recap, you know, in recovery, you'll learn, you know, some things you have to let go, some things you have to work at and you can't let go. You know, it's just you just have to work through the steps and do the hard work, because nothing's gonna come easy, and it's not worth it if it's just handed to you. So, you know, letting go, and most importantly, let God in. If you let go and give it to God, and you pray about it, you know, it may not happen overnight or right away, but trust me, He is right there with you. He will get you through it. And you will trust Him. You'll trust Him so that when the next storm comes, you know you'll be strong enough to stand it and withhold it. You know, there's been many situations where I know God got me out of my dark, deep hole. So now whenever a rock is thrown at me, you know, I can stand the pain, and I know I'll get through it.
And don't get it twisted. Honestly, it's not even about recovery necessarily. A lot of these topics, if you're sitting here and being like trying to show somebody this video and pointing the finger or thinking about pointing the finger at somebody, your poop stinks too. Everybody's poop stinks. Not just addicts. It's not just about addicts. You know, honestly, you could be going through something that you also have to let go, and you're not addicted to anything. You know, there's a lot of things that can happen to people. Yeah,
if you're going through a divorce, going through a custody battle, going through an illness, you know, sickness, have a family member with cancer, you know, letting go is important.
You can let it go.
Let go and let God.
Let go and let God. But that is all we have for Just For Today. Remember, you know what, actually, leave a comment below. Maybe this could be your first step in letting go. You know, write it out. Let us know what's going on. Let's start a conversation and get on that path to recovery.
What do you need to let go?
Yeah, let us know in the comments below. Remember to keep coming back.
Stay clean.
Later.
Bye. Ecclesiastes.
Ecclesiastics.
No, there's no C in it.
Astis,
not clastics.
Ziastis. There's no C at the end.
I know.
Then why'd you say it in the beginning?
That's Ecclesiastes. You were saying Ecclesiastes.
No, what?
I have to stop with my eyebrows though.
What is our? What's our topic?
Let it go. Let it go.
Does it sound okay? Were you listening?
Yeah, it was.
Huh?
Ecclesiastes 3:6.
Can you say it without looking?
Ecclesiastes 3:6. A time to keep, a time to throw away. No, see, I did that. Time to search, a time to give up, a time to keep, a time to give up, a time to give away. Throw away. Ecclesiastes 3:6. To throw away. Got it.
You got it?
Got it.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you ready?
Time to keep, a time.
Something to learn. Like they're to learn for everybody. This isn't just This doesn't just mean just. Oh my gosh.
That's funny. Go downstairs. Go downstairs.
Sit.
Good boy.
Thank you. Good boy. But.